I'll call the meeting to order. We had an executive session before this meeting, and we have moved out of executive session and are in our regular session. At first, we'd like to welcome the Edison State Community College education students. They're here in our corner observing our meeting today, and welcome. It's nice to have you here. We'll start off then with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any additions or amendments to the agenda? If so, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I just want to make a remark that Mr. Luby is absent tonight. He's actually on vacation, and we hope he's having a good time. Moving on, and we'll go to item C under board reports, and Mr. Height.
Yeah, we've got, since we met the last time, the Upper Valley Career Center Board has had 2 meetings. A lot of good things have happened in that time involving students. In September, we had a report that one of our ag students from Covington and their instructor was fortunate enough to attend the International FFA conference in Costa Rica. We have 2 students that are serving as national officers this year for Skills USA, and to have 2 from the same district to be a national officer, that's quite an accomplishment. And they've already got trips scheduled this year in Canada and Washington, D.C. We've got 80 students and 9 instructors from the satellite programs have attended the National FFA Conference. Last night we hosted a reception for our new staff members and Student Senate, and were updated by the Student Senate as to what their goals are for this year. And then we finished, part of the meeting was had rather lengthy discussion about the new graduation requirements that they're looking at from the state. And one of our satellite schools had made the comment that 1/3 of their students would not graduate this year, thanks to what the legislature has done to graduation requirements in Ohio. That's our report.
With graduation requirements, I read an article the other day. It looks like the state legislature may be looking at putting a stay on that.
They've heard
the number of people that are going to.
The Career Center superintendents had a meeting last Friday, and Dr. Luce walked away saying she at least felt like somebody had listened for a change. So we may see some movement and some change.
Just a little comment about the Upper Valley Career Center. It's a wonderful facility for many of our students, and they learn trades and skills and a lot of other different things at the Career Center, and ask any student who's a freshman or sophomore or even younger to take a look at it. Looking at the next item on our agenda is item D, which is hearing of the public. I have had nobody bring any items to my attention, so we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
Good evening. The big thing for the month of October is our 5-year forecast, and normally I'd have a PowerPoint presentation for you, but this evening I was just going to go over a few points. Were there any questions that you guys had that you wanted me to answer off the bat that you had? The forecast is looking good for FY17 and FY18. We're still remaining in the black, and our expenditures are less than our revenues. This, of course, is always subject to change. As I've discussed in the past, one of those topics of change is going to be the new biennial budget that the state is going to be voting on in the late spring, early summer of 2017. Currently, we're at 54% state funding, so we're reliant upon the state for 54% of our general fund budget. And so as that formula could change again every 2 years, it seems like they come up with something new. If that changes, that could drastically impact where we stand. But at this point, if the formula stays in place, we will actually be fully funded on the formula in FY18. So in the past, you've heard me say that we've been capped, and the state still on paper would show that we need more money to operate the district than what they're providing in FY18, we would actually reach that number. And then from that point forward, we'd be judged off of our ADM and a host of other characteristics. But specifically, our ADM is something that we have to keep in mind once we get to FY18. That's going to directly impact our funding. The other thing, when you're putting a forecast together, we're trying to project out 5 years, but we don't even have 5 years of information. So, again, the state budget ends this fiscal year, and we're waiting for 2 more years of that information. And then our negotiated agreement here at Pickle City Schools with our teacher association is at the end of this fiscal year as well. So that's a 3-year agreement typically in the past, and we don't have any information on that. So the information, the forecast is just a best guesstimate, a worst case scenario kind of thing as far as where we'd be looking at as far as the expenses are concerned with payroll and with benefits. So when putting this together, I was working with a couple of big unknowns. When you're trying to actually put this all together, those are 2 big areas of that we are going to be legally liable, or how much money actually shows up. So we haven't been able to, we're not going to be able to know what that information is. And so it may be late May's 5-year forecast, or it might be next October's before we actually have all this information settled to where we can actually provide a really good 5-year forecast. As I mentioned, the contract is up, and those negotiations will start sometime this winter, probably in February, and we'll just work from that point forward. I've discussed the formula funded. Are there any questions about how that works? I know we've talked about that a little bit in the past. In this forecast, you'll see that the federal funding under 1.040 is going to end up around $17,734,000, and that's sort of where we're going to top out. And then the tradition since I've been here is we've been losing somewhere between 70 to 80 students a year from that. So if our ADM keeps going down, that could be problematic for us moving forward, as that means that our state funding would be reduced. So that's why it is of concern when we talk about ADM. The other thing that's of concern when we talk about the overall state funding is the state share index. And the state share index is sort of a ranking of where the community is at and what they can afford, what a mill actually generates for the district. And we're actually in the middle of a reevaluation period in 2016, so the new values will be coming out. People's home values will be getting adjusted. Our property taxes will be increased and or decreased. And from that will be reshuffled in that mix under the next biennial budget as to what our state share increase is. So if we move up in ranking, i.e. the community can support more funding locally, then our state money will go down and could go down drastically. If we go down in the rankings and we look like we can't afford as much, or it won't generate as much per mill, then we can see that our funding could increase. So it really depends on what all the other communities do around us in the whole state, basically. And my fear is because of the CAUV values, our agricultural property, as that formula has been changed, that's actually going to lower the amount that rural areas are able to make off of 1 mill. And we could see ourselves looking like we're more wealthy than we were this last biennial budget. So that could end up posing a problem. But again, we're not going to know that information until we get to late spring, early summer. The good news to take from the forecast, though, is no matter what happens in those 2 factors, I believe that we're going to be able to remain in the black for this fiscal year and next fiscal year, again, barring any really huge unforeseen circumstances. So that's the good news. As we move into 2019, we start to get into that deficit spending area. And again, the goal is always to not get to that point, and we'll have to see what happens with the state budget, and we'll also have to look and see what happens with our own local income tax and property taxes to see if those are going to pick up or if they remain pretty level where they've been in the past. So that's sort of what I've got for you guys tonight. If you got any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
I'll make a comment that
Yep.
we're very fortunate in this district to have a very sound financial footing, and a lot of people need to be thanked for that, including our treasurer, our past superintendent, current superintendent, and the teachers and staff members of this district who had sacrificed a lot in the past, and we're in a nice position because of everything that they have done, including the past board members.
Any questions on the monthly financial reports that were included in the agenda? I'm asking.
Moving on to treasurer's agenda.
Oh, sorry.
Well, that's okay. Any questions for Jeremy about the financial reports? And I'd ask for a motion to approve the treasurer's agenda.
So moved.
Second?
All those, well, will the treasurer call the roll, please?
Bostic moved. I need a second.
I did.
Mr. Bostic,
Aye.
Mr. Height,
Aye.
Mr. Gregerson,
Aye.
Mr. Patrizio.
Aye. Move on to the superintendent's report.
Each month, when the building hosts the board meeting, we have the principal of that building come forward and talk a little bit about some of the work that is happening at that building with academics and trying to keep that strong academic focus in our building. So Mr. Mestick will come forward tonight and talk about the Piqua High School and some of the work that they're doing academically.
How's it going? Pretty loud guy, aren't I? A couple things that we have going on here at the high school. When I took over the job from Tony Lyons, fortunately the ship was sailing in the right direction, and I just had to kind of focus on a couple things with our staff and our administrative team, and some of our core values that we're going to have here at the high school and that we've been developing. Sound focused instruction. We want a school climate or environment that supports learning. And obviously, we also want to allocate our resources in the best way that's going to get our students to perform. And those are kind of what's been driving our conversations in our TBT meetings, our administrative meetings. Some of the things that we've been doing is we've really, I want to go to environment, school environment first, and just like the rest of the district, and maybe not as good as Josh Kaufman or Jeff Clark, but we have been put in the PBIS here at the high school, and we've had tremendous success. We have cut our referrals down by 40%, and that's truly amazing. It's a credit to our staff. And, obviously we still have some improvement to do, especially with the P part of it, but we are making some great strides.
What is the P part?
The positive part. We're getting better. We got some incentives going right now. We got an incentive program taking place. But anyway, or will be taking place. Because of that, that's freed up our administrators to do a lot more of our walkthroughs, and we're doing a lot more concentrated and focused walkthroughs, looking for very specific things, and working through our curriculum department, making sure that we're doing standards-based instruction and obviously hitting the rigor that standard's asking. The new testing has shown us some things, and we need to make sure that we are introducing enough academic struggle to our students so that they can perform on these tests. And so that's something that we've been currently working on. When we go into a walkthrough, we always ask, what is the standard that we're going to be observing today, and how are we going to know the kids have reached the standard, the level that they need to. And that's kind of driven a lot of our conversations. The other thing is the use of our resources. Concentrated on some staff development through our TBTs. We are looking at our testing data. We're also looking at some of those resources that now are coming out from the state to try to match up our instruction to some of the test questions and things like that that's coming out there. And also taking a look at our ACT prep stuff, our AP standards, and making sure that we're really teaching to the level that is needed to perform on those tests. We're also looking at how we're going to best, like I said, use our resources. Are we putting our people in the right places? We're looking at possible schedule changes into the next year so that we can focus on some of those core classes in the 9th grade. And so we're really starting those conversations now and working with guidance. We've got some things going. We've had a really great start to the year. You know, it's you walk through these hallways and you see some great instruction. You really do. People up. There's a big tempo. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Just like I like. And we're excited about the direction we're going. You guys got any questions for me?
No, and
That was
career
easy.
efforts. I mean, you seem to be enjoying your job.
I sure am. I sure am. This has been an excellent move for me. So I'm glad for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Messick.
Mhm.
The talk of the town this week seems to be what's going to happen on Friday, the big Troy football game with Piqua, and we're excited about all of those events that are happening. Mr. Hare is going to come forward and talk about everything that's happening this week that's leading up to that great moment on Friday. So, Mr. Hare.
If, Mr. Thompson, if I can regress a little bit, I'd like to talk about a couple other things that I'd like to celebrate.
Sure, great.
Our girls' golf team had an outstanding season and won the GWalk North Championship. It's a fun little story because that program started a few years ago when one girl wanted to play golf and asked 4 of her friends so we could have enough to have a team. And here, 5 years later, Coach Barhorst has taken that program and put them into a championship. So congratulations to Coach Barhorst and our team. Also, Andy Mays has qualified once again for the regionals, which will take place this Saturday at Troy. And if he should finish in the top 20, he would have the opportunity to compete at the state meet. So we certainly want to wish Andy lots of luck. Our girls soccer team took a step in the right direction this year. They won their first tournament game in a few years, and tournament wins are always fun to come by. They're not easy, and so it was a nice win for our girls soccer program. Some of you might have heard that there is a big game on Friday night. I have made a lot of new friends in the last few days, people wanting this and that and tickets and passes and that kind of a thing. The one thing I can tell you is Time Warner Cable has picked it up, and we are going to be the game of the week for Time Warner Cable. That's pretty exciting. All these are great opportunities for our community and our school and our kids, and I think that's really what this game brings. And I'm really just excited to have the opportunity to be working with our kids and our coaches to have 2 communities that mean so much in what is the most played game in the state of Ohio. It's the 136th meeting. Piqua is 163. Piqua South, better known as Troy, is 162. And there are 6 ties in this series. We have, Piqua has won 4 straight, and this one won't only just be for the Battle of the Miami, it will also be for the GWalk North Championship. So we have a lot to play for, a lot of hardware, and a lot of exciting things. To get ready for the game, there will be a downtown rally tomorrow night at the gazebo. There will be a parade downtown following the Halloween Kids Kiwanis Parade and awards program at the YMCA outside. So that'll kick off at 8 o'clock. And then on Thursday, we are going to take our rally on the road, where we will go to every school in the district, including Brookdale and Piqua Manor, and have an opportunity to spread a lot of Piqua cheer in the community. So we're really excited about the opportunity to showcase not just about Piqua Troy, but more of the spirit of Piqua and why we talk about We Are Piqua and the pride that this community has, and it gives us an opportunity to showcase that. And certainly both teams playing very well helps that, but hopefully we can also be playing week 11 in the playoffs as we did last year. Are there any questions?
No, thanks, Chip.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for all your work, Chip. Just a couple notes from some other things happening in the school district. Last week was School Bus Safety Week, and we practiced our safety evacuation drills in the buses successfully. Just a few notes on our transportation. We transport over 1,850 students daily for 1,540 miles every day, which is quite a lot of miles throughout our city. You see our bus drivers everywhere. We have 21 regular drivers each day. And to date, when we talk about safety, no issues to date with safety on our roads. So our bus drivers have done a great job of getting our students to and from school and to and from home each day. We appreciate their work. Our band qualified for a state the last 2 weeks, so they received a superior rating along with many other accolades at their state competitions. And they're going to be performing at the state contest on November 5th at 5:30 at Welcome Stadium in Dayton. So hopefully we can get some citizens and community members to go down and support our our band for the great season that they've had. And if you haven't seen the show, it is a very, very good show that our director, actually Carl Filippo, actually wrote the music and the marching to it. So it's a great show. Conferences are wrapping up this week. We had some schools that did conferences last week and some this week, and that's a chance for our parents and teachers, along with our administrators, to meet and talk about the students' progress, and we're very fortunate to have that time, and that's gone very well. From the principals that have had conferences so far, I've heard that the participation is up this year, so I'm excited to see what the final numbers will be on that. With that, that's it on my report.
Very good. We'll now move on to the superintendent's agenda.
I'd like to recommend board approval of the attached list of grants and donations. Normally, we don't read all the values, and I'm not going to do that, but just to recognize some of the local people that are donating to our schools, because we appreciate those groups. The Rotary Club, Target, Melcher Sowers Funeral Home, Chipotle, Wings and Rings, Reich, and Crayex Corporations and Kroger all donated some grants to us this last quarter, so we appreciate that. Next is to recommend board approval of the attached agreement with Fanning and Howie. This goes back to when Vonda came from Fanning and Howie last April. I went back to look, and Vonda came and talked to the board about some opportunities to do some work here at the high school and at the Pickle Junior High School. We've really come to that realization that this building's soon going to be 40 years old and the junior high is going to be 20. And in order to keep it up and to do some upgrades that are necessary for safety and so on, we need to begin that work. So the approval of this just says that Fanning and Howie will be approved to meet with a committee of us and some board members to talk about some of that important work that needs to happen. And that work right now entails some new fire alarm systems here at the high school, some structural pieces between the high school, the junior high, a lot of safety issues that we want to upgrade in some of the entranceways, and some new cameras. So those are not luxuries, they're things that we really need to do, and approving this will allow us to start meeting with Fanning and Howie and start putting those pieces together. The last piece is just approval of the attached gifted services forms. So we updated our forms for referring students to be tested, or sometimes parents ask their students not to be in the program. So we updated those, and we want to get those board approved so we can put those on our website for parents to have easy access to. Any questions on any of these pieces?
I have a motion to approve the superintendent's agenda.
So moved.
I have a second. Treasurer, call the roll, please.
Mr. Height,
Aye.
Mr. Bostic,
Aye.
Mr. Gregerson,
Aye.
Mr. Patrizio.
Aye. And we'll move on to the personnel agenda. Mr. Lyons.
Good evening. A shorter personnel agenda tonight, which is nice. A couple of thank yous to both Elise Kaiser and Jennifer Forsyth for their service, as they both have placed their resignations before the board this evening as well. A couple things to identify or just point out here. You notice that Shane Thomason is going to be asked for approval for tonight as a bus driver. That position came open as a vacancy from last month that I presented to the board for approval, and we were fortunate enough to have an outstanding driver in Shane to be able to come on board. He's also going to serve as one of our on-board instructors. We also have a significant list of volunteers. Again, thank everybody who comes in, and we've had quite a few people come in to do their fingerprinting and get on board with helping in the schools, things like that. That's on this evening as well. And just a note with the substitutes and things like that, I've had another rather long list of substitute teachers that just got emailed to me from the county today that we continue to interview and try to get out into our classrooms to continue to make that shortage, help our our building principals and things like that. But we also have that need with our substitute bus drivers, substitute bus aides, and there's going to be an ad going out in the paper soon for substitute bus aides, but as well the substitute bus drivers that we're always in need of. So people can contact me if they're interested in those kinds of positions. Outside of that, I would like to ask the board for approval on the personnel agenda as presented.
I have a motion to approve the personnel agenda.
So moved.
A second. So what's second it?
Second.
Okay. And can I have the treasurer call the roll, please?
Struggling. Mr. Bostic,
Aye.
Mr. Gregerson,
Aye.
Mr. Height,
Aye.
Mr. Patrizio.
Aye. Move on to new business. First on the item is recommend board approval of appointment of Jeremy Hiddle to the WOTVC board. May I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Second item on the agenda is recommend board approval of the attached authorization to purchase. And Mr. Hiddle, why don't you explain this?
The district's equipment, especially dealing with all of our vehicles, they are pushing in age. Most of our stuff is probably 15, 20, 25 years old. And so we're getting to the point where we've got some safety issues, specifically with the box truck. And it's time to swap that vehicle out. We've been able to identify a used box truck, and so that's why we're not going to go through the bidding process. It happens to be less than $30,000, but over $25,000, which is significant savings, where we could be spending $50,000 or $60,000 for this box truck if we were to buy it new. So I'm asking to approve not to exceed $30,000 for the box truck, so we can get that purchased and make sure that Keith has a safe vehicle to be toting our food for the district from the central location. So that is the first item on there. The second item on there is a truck that we need to have. We have new parking lots. We have an big old dump truck that we used to use to do a lot of our big plowing when we had heavy snows. We haven't replaced that truck at this point, but this truck would also be used for band and show choir. There's the potential that they'll be getting a 48-foot trailer, and we're going to have something that's going to be able to pull that trailer. And so this is also, so it will be used as a snow plow, but it's also going to be used to pull the 48-foot truck, or the trailer, and then it's also going to be used as a maintenance truck for the district. So it has multi-purposes. The price tag on that, we haven't found what we want exactly yet. It'll be a diesel, it'll be a 1-ton, and we're still shopping and looking for what we want. But again, it will be used, and we're asking to not exceed $50,000 to buy a used diesel 1-ton pickup truck.
Why are you looking at used rather than new? I mean, on the first truck, you obviously have something in mind. How many miles does it have on it? Is it?
The used truck that we're talking about, I think, has 26,000 miles on it.
What year is it?
It's a 2015, and it was an enterprise rental truck that, I mean, it's very low miles for what the district puts on the box truck. It'll last us another 20 years. There was nobody was asking for a new box truck. It was not even the diesels. You know, if we don't find what we need, we can come back and do a bidding process for a new truck. But typically, you especially talking with Matt, the guy that's helping us, that's our mechanic at this point. He says that as long as we get certain engines in them, that we will, even if it had 150,000 miles on it, we would get a longevity out of it, because those Cummins diesel engines go for forever. So I'm just going off of recommendations that are made by the mechanic and the people who use the equipment.
Very good. I'm glad you're looking at the experts for recommendations.
Well, I don't really want to pay $80,000 for a diesel pickup truck either, so.
I have a motion to approve the recommendation to authorize the purchase of these two trucks, or two vehicles.
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The last item on the new business is just the first read of the board policy updates, which are listed. I don't believe we need to vote on that. It's a first read. I'll go to the hearing of non-agenda items, and I have nothing that's before me. And then we'll move on to M, which is adjournment. And I'm going to notify everybody we have our next meeting. It's a board work session on November 13th, 2016 at 12 o'clock at the OSBA Capitol Conference, Crown Plaza in Columbus, Ohio. And And then after that, our next board meeting after that is actually November 17th at Spring Creek, so we'll visit Connie out there. With that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Just a quick happy birthday to Frank on Saturday, too.
Yeah,
Happy birthday, Frank.
thank you.
Happy birthday. Mr. Boston, it's moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.